All right, guys, you don't need to see my face anyway. I can't necessarily figure out, excuse me, why OBS isn't allowing me to put my webcam on there. But hey, this is how it goes. This is the first live stream because, like I said, I'm having tons of issues with screen flow. Anytime I make videos over 30 minutes, it's taken way too long to upload, and a lot of times it's freezing. And so, you know what? We're just gonna do it live. So this is raw, uncut. I got nothing to hide here. If I mess up, I mess up. You get to see all my mistakes and my glory. So if anybody knows OBS really well and you can kind of walk me through the process, I would love that. I'm just starting out, so I'm trying to figure out how everything works. But today we are going to get right into some Figma for imagery and backgrounds, especially when it pertains to funnels and ClickFunnels specifically. So I'm going to walk you through a few things that I use on a daily basis when it comes to building my funnels and structuring some images. And I'm going to show you kind of the methods that I use, and then I'll kind of show you how to incorporate those inside of your funnels. And hopefully you guys can learn a little bit from this and we can learn together. All right, so let's get rolling. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to, inside Figma right here, I'm going to draw a rectangle. Didn't get my train of thought there. I'm going to draw a rectangle here, and I'm just going to show you guys about like fill and radius and all kinds of things you can do with these shapes. So when you make a shape, obviously I can come over here and I can fill this with any color. Now, on my shape, I can also change the corner radius. So if I grab these little dots and I pull them in, what's going to happen is these corners are going to become rounded. And that's really important because ClickFunnels and other web builders don't have a ton of great capability when it comes to actually rounding out your corners. And so it's something nice to do before you upload it into ClickFunnels so that you can have consistency on your images. Okay, so once you have set your corner radius, some of the things you can do with this is you can add a drop shadow. So if I come over to effects and I click drop shadow, and then I can click on this little light and I can start to add my shadow. So X means how far it goes left and right, Y is how far it goes up and down, and then blur obviously is how blurry it gets, and then spread is going to push the shadow out. So if I go 10 and 10, and let's say we go up to like 40 on this, we'll just leave the spread as is. You guys can see that kind of, you can see the drop shadow that it adds. It adds a nice kind of 3D effect. And so what I'll do here is I'll just put one of these right next to it and kind of show you the difference of what that looks like with and without a drop shadow. Okay, so you can see that it's very subtle, but if you use your drop shadows effectively, it can create a nice 3D look on your page. With your drop shadows, you can change the color of them. And so I can, if I wanted it to be a different color, I can change the outline color. And so there's a lot of things that you can do with those. All right, so those are rounded corners and drop shadows. Those are two features that I use a lot inside of Figma that can come in handy when it comes to adding some images to your page. Okay. All right, let's talk about images themselves. So I'm just going to bring in an image here. So to do that, you can hit Command-Shift-K, or you can go up to, I'll show you two ways to do it. So Command-Shift-K, you can get an image, and then once I have it, I can just place it on my board, or you can just click the square up here and then go to Place Image, and it can do the same exact thing. So I got a image of my business partner Julian here, looking really good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I'm going to mask him with a shape. And so a lot of times when you're building imagery, you want to change the shape of an image. So let's say I want to put Julian in a circle. So all I need to do here is I need to hit O for ellipse. I'm going to hold Shift, and then I'm going to draw a circle. Okay, and I'm just going to make sure that that circle covers him and it covers his head so that when I put him in the circle, he's not cut off here. Okay, so once I have him in the circle, since I want the circle to be behind him, I'm going to drag the ellipse below the image. So now it's behind him. Now I'm going to select both of them, and then now I'm going to go up to Object, and I'm going to say Use as Mask. And so when I click that, it's actually going to mask this into a circle. Now, since this image didn't have a background, so Julian didn't have a background on him, you can't necessarily see the outline of the circle. So we can do this again with a different image. So I'm just going to go up here to Plugins, and I have an Unsplash plugin here, and I'm just going to pull in a random image. So if you guys want a really cool plugin, go download Unsplash. It's all the stock photos. Let's just go insert random and see what we get. So if you click Insert Random, it's just going to put an image on your canvas here. And now I have this image of this woman here, and I'm going to put her in a circle as well. So I'm just going to hit O for ellipse, hold Shift. I'm going to put that right around where she is here. I'm going to move that ellipse underneath the image. I'm going to select them both, Object, Use as Mask, and now I've cut her into a circle as well. And now when I scale this, I can scale with her and the circle together. So a lot of times you guys are going to be using this feature, you know, just to change up how images are sitting on your funnel. You're not always just going to take an image of somebody and put it directly into the funnel. It's not going to look great. So you're going to want to add some masking shapes. You can do masking with any shape that you want. So if I have an image and I want to use a rectangle or a polygon or a triangle or a star, you guys can use anything you want. These come in handy when it comes to using testimonials, because a lot of times you're going to use this type of image for a testimonial, and then you would have your text over here or on top or under. But a lot of use cases for this. Okay, so let's build on that a little bit, and I'm going to do a little bit more advanced of a masking. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that same image of Julian again. I'm going to put him on here, and this time what we're going to do is not only are we going to mask him in a circle, we're actually going to mask him so that his head is kind of like popping out of the circle, so it kind of looks like a 3D effect. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to bring your image on, and then you're going to duplicate it. So I'm going to hit Option Shift, and I'm going to drag it over, and make sure you hit Shift because you want all these to stay in line, or else it gets a little bit trickier. So I have two images of Julian. Now I'm going to hit O for ellipse. I'm going to hold Shift, and now I'm going to draw an ellipse, and now I'm going to place this. I'm going to place the ellipse above the cutoff line, because his image cuts off sharp here, and his head is actually popping out above the ellipse. Okay, and that's what I want. So I can make this a little smaller if I want. I want something up here to be sticking out, but I want this circle down here to be higher than his cutoff line. So that looks about good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the circle, I'm going to hold Option Shift, and I'm going to drag another one over just like this. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are first going to mask these two things. So I need to move this ellipse underneath the image. Okay, so I need to get it down here underneath this, and so it's in the background. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two. I'm going to go Object, Use Mask. Now I've masked this. Okay, now I'm going to take this ellipse. I'm going to change this. Let's give it like a purpley hue here. And now I'm going to take this ellipse, okay, and I'm going to make it underneath his image again, okay? So now, actually I need to go underneath this one here. Let's try that again, all the way down here. Okay, so now I have this ellipse underneath. So now when I hold Shift and move it over, you can see how it's going behind him. And now it's going to click into place, and now I have this cool circle effect on this one with a background color. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this image. I'm going to go over to his little image here under Fill and click on this. And then I'm going to click the Fill drop down and turn this to Crop. And now what I'm going to do, excuse me, I didn't mean to click that. I'm going to click Crop, and then I'm going to pull this up and crop it to right about there. Okay, so now I hit Enter. And now holding Shift, I'm just going to drag Julian over until he sits right on top of the other one. Okay, and actually if I zoom in, I think I'm a little off there, so I would need to situate that just like this. And now what you have, once you get it perfect, there you go. And now what you have is you have an image once I group it. So I'm going to go Object, Group It, and now what I can do is this is one complete image. Okay, and now you have that pretty cool effect of like a 3D circular pop-out image that you can add to your page. All right, so that's a cool effect you can add. All right, so if you want to take it a step further, what you can do here is you're going to select up here on your group, and you're going to go to Ellipse, and then you're going to add a drop shadow. So now I'm going to go to Effects, Drop Shadow, and then we're going to set our drop shadow to 10, 10, and 40. And now what I have, if I zoom in, you can actually make the opacity a little darker so you can see it. Now I've created a cool, now it's truly 3D. Now I have a drop shadow on there, and that drop shadow is coming down like there's light shining from the top left down on him so that the reflection is going and the drop shadow is going on the bottom right. Okay, So now what you can do is you can just take this image directly, you can export it, and then you can upload it directly into ClickFunnels, okay? Now, when it comes to exporting images, let's talk about this real quick. All right, so we have this image, it looks great. Sometimes what happens is when you export things from Figma and XD, they end up exporting at a smaller or a less high quality, they're just not as high quality. And what happens on that is, so if I click on Julian and I click plus on the export, you see this 1x over here, okay? And if you click that, you have all these different options. And no one really knows, unless you really know web design or just print design, what those actually mean. So what that means is this image is designed at 1x, which means the ratio of pixel density is 1 times what it should be, okay? So usually 72 pixels per square inch. But what happened was iPhone, when they released their iPhone 3 and iPhone 4, we went to what's called Retina display. Now, Retina display essentially crammed more pixels into a square inch than any resolution that we've ever seen. Okay, and so what happened was you needed to make your image bigger to appear better on certain screens. Okay, so in order to make this image look as good as it should on all screens, we need to export it at 2x. And what that's going to do is it makes the file a little bigger, but what it does is it makes the pixel density higher, and so that it doesn't get blurry when you view it on a Retina screen. Because if we were to view this image on the internet on a Retina display, it would not be as sharp as what it is right now inside of Figma, okay? Because we have to export it at 2x. So anytime you're exporting something, it's really good habit to get into exporting it in 2x as long as you can manage the file size. We don't want to export things at 2x that are like already 5 megabytes. That's going to make your page really slow, but for smaller images like this, we can do that. So I would just click export at 2x. I would click export group 1. Obviously, you would have it named differently if you're going to keep it organized. So let's just call this Julian test, and then we'll save it to our desktop, and we will save. And now what you're going to get is on your desktop, you're going to have that image. So when you want to use it in ClickFunnels, you just go to add the image, you upload it, and you have that exact image that you built in Figma, and it already has the drop shadow and everything that you need on it. Okay, so that's a pretty cool trick. All right. So let's talk about how else we can make images look cool. So I'm just going to delete this for now. I'm going to get Julian back in here. He's going to love me for doing this tutorial of him the whole time. So now when I put him back in here, oops, what do we do here? Let's try that one more time. Let's get Julian. And let's place him. All right, so now we have him again. And let's say we don't want to put him in a circle, but we also don't just want to add his image directly into ClickFunnels. What we can do is we can kind of add like a background feature. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go up to plugins, and then we're going to go into blob, make blob. All right. And now what you can do in make blob is you can change the complexity of this, and you can change the contrast of these blob shapes to get something that you think looks pretty cool. So if you just like scroll through here and you get something that you like, let's say like that looks pretty good. I'm just going to add that to the page. And now I have this blob. Okay, so I'll go in here and I'll change my color to something a little more muted, maybe a little more blue, like that. All right, now I'll take my blob and hold shift and just drag it up. Now I'm going to go over here and draw this or move this vector, and that's what the blob's called. So you could rename this blue blob so that you know what it is, and then you could go up here and rename this Julian. So now I know that those are the two things I'm working with. So now I can take this blob, let's make it a little bigger, let's make it like this. All right, so now I have this blob in the background, and it's kind of just adding a color pop. And now what you could do is you could even add some shapes to it if you wanted as well, or you could keep it as is. What I like to do is I like to layer things. So let's go back up and let's do another blob. So let's go to plugins and let's go to another blob. Let's make this one a little bit different than the one we had. That one looks good. Okay, so now let's take this and let's make this one like that. Let's make it bigger. Let's put this gray blob, and let's move that underneath Julian. And let's see what looks the best. If we want it above the blue, just like that. I don't love that color because it looks the same as the background. So if we do something like this, and then we can move that blob wherever we want so that it makes like a cool layering effect. I like something like that. Okay. So you see what I'm doing here. I'm just creating kind of like layers and complexities into the image, so that if this was sitting on like a darker background, that gray would pop, and then we would have a nice contrasted image. Okay. So if you don't want the gray or you don't want the blue, you can just delete one and leave it at 1, and then you can just play around with whatever you think's good. And then what you can do is you can go Object and Group. And now I have this group here, and I can export this directly once again, and then I can upload it into ClickFunnels. Okay, so let's just try that real quick. So I have this grouped. I'm going to go export. I'm going to export at 2x. I'm going to export this. I haven't even opened ClickFunnels yet, so you have to go through that process with me. So I'm going to export this Julian 2, put it on my desktop. I'm going to save it. All right, now I'm just going to quickly over here open up ClickFunnels where you can't see, and then I will get into here and I will upload one of these for you so you can see how this works. Okay. So you can see the process is pretty straightforward, guys. I mean, this is how I make pretty much everything that I do in my funnels. I first take it into Figma. I play around with it. I see, you know, how I can make it look a little bit better, and then I upload it directly into ClickFunnels. And after this, I will walk you through kind of what it looks like to do the same process with backgrounds for those of you that like using backgrounds in your funnels. I used to use a lot more backgrounds. I kind of have gotten away from it just because it makes the page heavier, and I think it looks really clean to just have, you know, clean lines everywhere, but it's totally up to you guys. How you want to do that. So I'm just going to delete this section here. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull this over so you guys can see this now. So actually I don't need either of these. So I'm just going to add a new section, and I'm just going to grab a new section, one of my saved ones that I got from my block builder, because that's how I roll, and I like to save a lot of time. So this is already a section that I already have built. So I'm just going to go up here into settings. I'm going to go into my image uploads. You can see I was playing around with some things earlier with Julian when I was trying to make my other screen record, and I already had all that done, but it's all right. So now, once I have this image uploaded, I can just replace the image that I already had in my block builder section with Julian's image, and I can see how it looks. All right. And sometimes you get it right on the first try and it looks exactly the way you want it, and sometimes you need to edit it a little bit. So now now you can see with that dark background, it looks pretty cool. So if I save that, and now I can preview, and now what I have is, now instead of the other guy on there, I have Julian as my feature image. So guys, it's just a matter of seeing what you think looks cool and what looks right, and then just building it the way you see it in Figma, and then uploading it directly into ClickFunnels. And that's it, guys. That's the same process you would go on, go through on any other web builder platform as well. Okay. All right. So let's go through some backgrounds here. So let's talk about background size and why that's relevant. So when we are designing, so if I was to design a frame here, and the frame that I told you guys that we usually use is this desktop frame. And this desktop frame in Figma is 1440 by 1024. Now that's great for designing your actual landing page. Now, if you're going to be taking backgrounds directly from your design into ClickFunnels, you can't use 1440, okay? Unless certain situations. What you need to do is the size of your background, if you're going to take it straight from Figma, needs to be 1920 by 1080. Because what's going to happen is you have to accommodate all screen sizes with your background image. If you take a 1440 background image and you set it to no repeat in ClickFunnels, it's not going to stretch all the way across all the big screens. So anyone that has a screen that's bigger than a laptop is going to see white space on the side. Okay, whereas if you use a 1921, that's going to stretch for everybody. And I'll walk you through a little bit of the different background sections in ClickFunnels. But this is a good rule of thumb when you're designing a background image to be 1920 by 1080. Okay, let's just make a simple one here. So I'm just going to go my O shape or my ellipse shape again. I'm going to draw an ellipse. I'm going to fill it. Let's go like a linear gradient here. So I'm just going to click linear. I'm going to change this to like a blue or a purplish. I'm going to change this one to like a pink, just like that. I usually like those colors. And then I'm going to change my gradient angle just a little bit here. So we have it like this. All right, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take my ellipse and move it underneath the desktop. Oh, that shouldn't do that. That's not what I wanted. Let's try that again. Let's put it in the frame. There we go. So what you need to do is you need to put it in the frame of the desktop, and then what it will do is it will chop off like that, okay? So I'm just gonna take this and duplicate it and then just like drag it over here. Okay, if you guys have seen my course, those of you that have my course, I kind of do a tutorial like this inside the course. And so you might have already seen something like this, but that's okay. It's always good to refresh. So now I have these two orbs, all right? If you wanted to, you could add like a drop shadow to them to make them really cool and 3D, or you can leave them just like this. So once I have what I want, I have two options. If I want my background to be white in ClickFunnels, then I could leave it the way it is. Or I could click on the frame and take my fill down to 0. And so now when I put this on my page, it's just going to be the orbs. It's not going to be the background color. It's just going to be the orbs. Okay. So I have these two orbs. I'm going to take my entire frame. I'm going to go down here to export. And on this one, since it's already 1920 by 1080 and it's a background image, we're just going to leave it at 1x because it doesn't need to be like a super sharp image for this one. So I'm just going to export this. And we'll just say this as orb background 1. We'll save it to the desktop. Now, when I head over to ClickFunnels here, ClickFunnels is open here. So if I add a background image to this, let's just go up here into this, and we're going to add a background image. And I'm going to upload, and we'll just upload that orb background that we just created. And once this loads, I think the more images, I think I have like 1,000 images in here right now, and so it takes a little while. So now you can see, now we have the orbs in the background. All right, obviously not a good combination with this here with Julian, all right, because this blob clashes with that orb, but it's just more to see what it looks like. So let's check our background settings here. Our background settings right now are set to fill 100% width. So I want to show you what that looks like. Fill 100% width means no matter how big the background image is, it's going to stretch it across your screen to fit the screen. And that's fine sometimes, but I'll show you how this works. So if I save this and preview it, let's say I'm someone that has, okay, so right now I'm someone that has a big desktop screen. So I have a 32-inch monitor and the background is fitting perfect, okay? It looks just like we made it. But if we start getting smaller, you see what happens. In fill 100% width, your background is actually going to move as the screen moves, okay? So if that's what you want and that's what looks good, like that still looks pretty good with the text that I have because it contrasts nicely, that's perfectly fine, okay? So let's go back and look at the other option I usually use. The two options I usually use are either no repeat and fill 100% width. So when I pick no repeat, it moves a little bit because it stretches out to full 1920 width, which is right there. And now if I save it and I preview it, here's what happens now. When I move my screen this time, the orbs aren't gonna move. All that's gonna happen is the screen's going to move and the orbs are gonna stay in the same place. So when I get to like right here, which is about a MacBook size, you actually can't even see the other orb, okay? All right, but the trade-off is that your screen didn't you didn't move upward. Everything didn't move upward until you get to this break point where the text starts to run into each other and it starts to move, okay? So that's the difference between fill 100% or 100% width and no repeat. So you kind of just got to play around and see what works with your design before you actually like decide on one. The other one that I like to use is parallax. So if we change this to parallax, we're not going to be able to do anything because let's just duplicate this real quick so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so now if I have that set to parallax, I still don't think it's going to work very well because I don't have a long enough section here. Okay, let's go back and try one more thing here. So instead of adding a section here, I'm going to delete these, and I'm just going to add some content to this top section here. So let's just add a row. Let's go my rows, and we'll just do like this. There we go. Okay, so we have something there. So now when I save and preview, when it's on parallax, what's going to happen is everything that is on the page will move, but the background won't move. Okay, so now you can see what happens with parallax. So you have a lot of different choices when it comes to your background images. You just have to play around and see what works best with what you're doing on your page. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense to you guys. All right. Okay, we're getting pretty short on time here. I didn't want to go much longer than 30 minutes, so I know I wouldn't be able to cover a ton, but I think, you know, when I was starting out with funnels, I had a lot of these questions. Like, I didn't understand how the backgrounds worked. I didn't understand how people were getting certain things from, you know, into their backgrounds on ClickFunnels. I didn't understand that. So hopefully that kind of makes sense in terms of like what you can do with Figma. And this is just a very small amount of what you can do. Okay, so I had a couple people asking, you know, for a couple different suggestions, you know, and asking about like, okay, how can I find like inspiration for certain pages, and how can I do this? The next video we do is going to be the video where we actually build the landing page in Figma, and then the final video will be everything moved over into ClickFunnels. But I want to kind of show you like what I use as inspiration, guys. I am not a professional, like, I'm not a classically trained designer. I don't know all the ins and outs of what it is to design. All I know is that when I look at something, I can see that it looks good and I can recreate it. And for me, that has gotten me, you know, as far as I've gotten now based off of the fact that I can do that. So a couple of my favorite inspiration sites, and I've showed you a few of these before, but Landing Folio is one that I always go to. So Landing Folio is just a collection of, landing pages. You can click into them and you can see the live page, or you can just view it, you know, in preview mode. But what I do is I just look for like ideas. Like I like this right here where it's like, it looks like it's a video chat conference there. I go through and I look, okay, here's like what we just did in Figma. We can do that. I can bring like a blob into my background. I like this kind of stuff up here where it's just like shapes in the background. And then also I'm into this style right now too, where it's just white background and then everything else just looks clean. So go through there and get inspiration. All right. Another really good inspiration is saslandingpage.com. So on SaaS Landing Page, it's very similar to Landing Folio, but this time, and I've showed you this before, you can actually click on like pricing section, and then you can go in here and you can get ideas for that. You can go to features sections. Now I see some ideas here. I like this background. I like that background. I like how they take this image here and they've given it like these little tick marks so that it just looks a little bit more dynamic. And guys, that's all I do. I just look around and I see what I like and then I just recreate it, okay? I'm going to give this away. I've never actually talked about this on camera or really on any of my YouTube videos. My biggest secret weapon that I have is called UpLabs. UpLabs is a collection of UI kits and templates and everything else. It is a premium software. It's $19.99 a month, or it's $9.99 a month if you pay yearly. But this is so powerful because when you go into UpLabs, you can actually sort things through your UI software. So if you click on Figma, you can see everything that everybody's done in Figma, okay? So let's say I'm scrolling through here and I'm like, oh, I really like the look of this landing page here. So I'm gonna click this creative agency landing page. Now, this is where it changes. Landing pages inside of UpLabs can actually be downloaded and used directly. So if I download this right now, if I click to download this, I can actually import this directly into Figma, and I've actually already downloaded it. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. All right, so I've downloaded that exact landing page, and it was free because I have a premium membership. And when you open this, it's going to be a live built Figma document. This is not the image. Like all these pieces are pieces of information that I can move around and I can do with whatever I want with them. Guys, I'm telling you, I start out probably 75% of my funnel work by using a template off of UpLabs. And what I do is I just take things and I piece them together. So I will download like 4 or 5 different landing pages that I like. I'll put them side by side, and then I'll put my other landing page on the other side that I'm actually making, and I'll just pull pieces from one landing page and put them on my page, and that's how I get my inspiration. And then I take it and I brand it and I make it whatever my client needs, and then that's how I start pretty much every project. And then once I have what I want inside of Figma, I just start pulling stuff over. And I'm going to show you that entire process in our next video, but I wanted to really show you the power of sites like this. Like UpLabs, I can spend hours on, and I just pull things off. You can get ideas for mobile design, you can get ideas for landing page, you can search specifically for landing, and then once you have landing, you can go compatible with, and then click Figma, and now all the landing pages that are already built in Figma you can take and import directly. So like I could take this page right here and pull it directly into Figma, and look, this is for a personal project only, so I wouldn't be able to use this one for like selling anything or for clients. But if you look through them, you will be able to find ones that are commercial and personal. So you can literally, like this one right here, for commercial use, unlimited number of projects. So if I like this, I can literally pull this in, use it directly for a client, and it's legal because I paid for it and I have the license details. And if you click on license details here, it actually tells you exactly what the license details are. Each purchase allows the buyer to use the product for one project for commercial use. So there you go. Like if you're scrapped and you just need ideas, it's a really good option to have in your back pocket. And like I said, it's $19.99 or $19 a month, or $10 if you pay yearly. So this is one of my very powerful resources that I use on a daily basis. Okay. I could go through a bunch more, and I will as we continue on, but we're way past what I wanted to do at time here. So hopefully the live stream is working and works, and so I can get this uploaded, because I'd love to keep doing this. I like doing lives because it's raw and like it's just what it is. You get what you get what you see here. I'm not like practicing all this stuff beforehand. Okay, so if you guys got any questions on anything, feel free to let me know. I just wanted to do a little bit on imagery and backgrounds. And our next one, I will literally take you step by step through a landing page build, and we will get up to putting it into ClickFunnels. Okay. All right, guys, I'm calling the live stream good here. So hopefully everything worked and you got to see some things, and feel free to ask questions if you have any, and I will talk